Welcome back to Mastering Wisconsin Plumbing. I just got back from the MCAA Prefab Conference, and wow, it was an eye-opening experience. We toured a 100,000 square foot shop that had its own research and development department. Inside there, they had 3D printers and specialized machines dedicated to prototyping tools and other custom items. Saw a lot of their infrastructure there and how they do their workflow. Pretty cool stuff. Really struck me a lot of this because I've been using a 3D printer at work for very similar things. I've been prototyping fittings and teaching tools. And while some of these I'll eventually patent, others I've been freely sharing with apprentices and fellow instructors. In fact, I had a chance out at that conference to connect with somebody in Texas that was talking about how they were using their 3D printed fittings in their training center in Texas, which is Local 68. And I was like, hey, yep, I shared that information with that guy. I was happy to. It was just really neat that I got to connect with somebody that had a relatable impact of things that I've worked on. It's really exciting to see how technology like this is reshaping plumbing education. Another moment that really resonated with me during my time in Philadelphia, I went to the Constitution Square where they had a museum highlighting the original debates over the Constitution. Fairly large room with bronze life-size statues. And it was everybody that was in this delegation. Just think about it. People in a room hashing out a brand new way of doing things for an entire nation. It reminded me of where we are in plumbing prefab right now. So we're not just building things differently, we're changing the way entire industry thinks about construction. It's the same spirit of innovation, collaboration, and forward-looking mindset. So speaking of shaping the industry and education, I'm joined today by Pete, who's had quite a journey in the plumbing world. He's been an installer, moved into design, and is now teaching the next generation of plumbers. Pete, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's, I reached out to you a week or so ago to see if you'd want to do this, and I think you felt it was compulsory, like you can't say no to me. So, no, I appreciate you taking the time, Pete. Of course, you could have said no. But just to start off, can you start us off by telling us a little about yourself and how you first got into the plumbing trade?
Sure. I grew up way up north in northern Wisconsin. I attended college down here in Madison, and I ended up staying. I've also spent quite a bit of time in the military, and I got deployed to a combat zone during my apprenticeship, actually. I've played and still play in a few local bands and continue to be an active part in the Madison music scene. As far as plumbing, start of my plumbing career is unique, but not out of the ordinary when you talk to other people who got started in it. Another officer in my National Guard unit, who he was a loan officer, previously a loan officer at a bank in the Twin Cities, and had just started a plumbing apprenticeship. And I was working at different jobs at the time, still hadn't found an actual career. So when he told me about his recent experience, I thought about giving plumbing a try myself.
Nice, man. Yeah, you had an impactful person. You had kind of a unique apprenticeship then, because I remember when you came back after being deployed, and I think you were a fourth year, weren't you? So you still had about 2 more years to finish in your apprenticeship?
I was a brand new second year, actually.
Brand new? Okay. So maybe, obviously I'm misremembering, but so thinking back to the installer days, what did you find most challenging about learning the trade hands-on? Was that a new thing? I mean, I know you went to college, extensive career in the military. I mean, you guys did a lot of hands-on stuff there, but you're well-versed in book knowledge and academia. So was there any like weird thing with the hands-on challenging of an apprenticeship?
Actually, honestly, no. Plumbing or just working construction in the field was intriguing. During my childhood, and I guess in summer jobs that I had when I was a kid and in college, I worked with tools a lot, and I got to be pretty decent with tools. And so that part of it wasn't intimidating. And what actually that interested me, but what most people don't realize about any construction trade, I didn't really understand that at the time until I got into it and did some research about it, like the financial benefits of it. And what was intriguing to me was the physical toil. It may sound weird to people, but like physically working hard under the sun or in the cold that was intriguing. And the amount of skill and knowledge that we have that others don't have was also kind of interesting to me.
That's quite the statement. I mean, it means a lot to go home kind of tired from physical labor, right? Like there's a lot of tasks that are daunting during the day and you're tired mentally, but I think that physical expenditure really, yeah, I agree with that 100%, man. Were there any mentors or experiences that shaped how you approached your early on work in your apprenticeship? I mean, you talked about kind of your upbringing and being, well versed with tools, but is there anything that really drove that home for you early on in your apprenticeship?
Well, I've learned from every foreman I've ever worked for, whether it be things I should do or even things that I decided to not do. One foreman that I spent most of my apprenticeship with that I learned a great deal from, and he was an older guy, which is weird because I'm like right now the same age that he was at the time. So like I don't consider myself old, but he was kind of a screamer. He'd admonish you or whatever, or criticize you. He would kind of scream. And yeah, he was an older guy, and that's kind of the way his motor ran, I guess. But kind of 10 seconds later, he'd forget all about it. He asked about my baby daughter, or say something about the Brewers. Just he wasn't like
He didn't dwell
a
on it
mean
too
person.
much. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't dwell on it. He wasn't a mean person. He didn't dwell on it. He really took care of me and stuck up for me when dealing with project managers or office people. And what I guess he taught me, he was really efficient. He kind of didn't waste any steps at the contractor that we worked for at the time. He was one of their top foremen, so we'd get the bigger jobs. And part of that was because he was so efficient. We would, like I said, we get on a big job, but we would start that like towards the end of the summer and maybe turn that over in the spring. So all summer, he and I would do undergrounds all summer, like a strip mall or something where we put in the deep stuff and then stub up if there were any toilet rooms or anything in the building. We'd stub up, 4-inch or whatever. And he taught me, what I've learned from him was that efficiency. And he taught me how to work with operators. That's a huge part of what us as plumbers do. And not a lot of people think about that.
Absolutely.
But, somebody that's digging a trench for you, you've got to make sure that, you're going the right direction. Your trench is deep enough or shallow enough.
Yep.
You got room to put stone in. Another thing with that was he actually taught me a lot about how to work with the other trades. This was in the days before BIM. So we would have to figure out a lot of people hurry up, get it in. So we're first that, everybody's got to go around us. He would actually kind of think it through and go with the other trades, the other foremen, and figure out the best way for everybody to run their mechanical equipment in that space.
Those are some pretty powerful skills. I mean, just going back to the operator thing. Yeah. So you have a trade that both is a symbiotic relationship, right? We're getting paid to put the plumbing in, but we have to dig it. We got to run this heavy machinery. You got to approach them with like a respect of what they have, capabilities of doing and their experience. But at the end of the day, you're kind of telling them what to do. So that's a really good point, Pete. Like it's tough to navigate that. And then the whole BIM thing.
Right.
I've heard the drawbacks on BIM collaboration, like we're losing that soft skill element, right? On the field, we're not able to kind of figure out problems on the fly, but I think we always end up doing it. It's just not ideal, right? But yeah,
right.
I'm pretty sure I know who you're speaking of, and I worked with him a few times. Those are that's a great mentor. Like I didn't have that experience with him. He was always like a decent dude. I heard him screaming, sometimes, but nothing. I didn't have that experience with him. So thanks for sharing that.
There was another foreman that I worked with. I spent some time with him. Like I said, I worked with that other foreman for probably the first 4 years of my apprenticeship. This foreman was younger than me, actually, so it was kind of an interesting relationship we had. When you first get hired by a contractor, they give you a bucket of tools and say, here you go. This is what you get. And when you're, starting out, you don't have a lot of money. So I didn't go out and get anything nice for myself, like tool wise. But this foreman, he had his own stuff, and he would encourage me I should get my own stuff. And he would show me, okay, this is what I want you to do. Go here, do that, and then he would usually casually drop something like at the end of the our conversation and say, you should really get a set of 430s or something like that. One of the things I remember that I kind of took to heart as an apprentice learning from a foreman, he always had the correct tool in his bag for what he was doing, like a pair of smooth jaw channel locks or a basin wrench or something that, maybe I didn't have. So that was as innocuous as this sounds, like that was kind of something he instilled in me, like make sure you have what you need. And if the shop's not going to get it for you, you're going to have to, get it for yourself. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great lesson. It's fun to kind of geek out on tools anyways, right? But having those specific tools to for the exact job. I mean, that's huge. It's smooth jawed channel locks. I mean, then we're not screwing up the finish work on something that's chrome plated.
And still, for the rest of my plumbing career, I carried a set of 430 channel locks. With most people had the smaller 420s because they fit in your pocket. I would carry the 430s because, when you're trying to take off an 8-inch cleanout plug, you'd have to find something bigger because a 420 wouldn't fit it. 430, that had bigger jaws on it, but also could do the smaller stuff like turn rod into an anchor, So, that was something I kept doing for the rest of my apprenticeship and when I was a journeyman.
Because you usually wore carpenter jeans at work, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And you had those 430s in your side pocket still, right?
Yeah, they'd slide right in there. And then after a while, then they'd, slide through the hole they created in your jeans and fall out on the floor. So then, whatever. That was kind of funny. But, yeah.
It's good times. I remember that. That's like the iconic Pete ensemble.
Yeah.
So transitioning into design work from field installation.
Sure.
At what point did you make that?
All right. I kind of didn't get to decide that for myself. I've got health issues, and I got to the point where I didn't have the physical strength to work safely on a job site. So I made the decision to go back to school full time for architecture, and then found that an avenue I could take with that training would be designing plumbing systems. And I ended up interning for a plumbing contractor that I had previously worked for. And so I did a lot of designing for them. And when I graduated from the program, I got a job designing plumbing at a large engineering firm.
Very cool. That's kind of a unique experience. So you worked as an installer at the company and then did some additional training and then went and worked for that same company and doing design work. But what a valuable designer you were, or probably still are, right? To have that field expertise and be able to transition. How did your time in the field specifically, how did they influence the way you approach plumbing design? Did you do things a little differently as far as what you were aware of as what a typical designer would have done, or a designer that didn't come from the installation background?
So usually when a firm hires somebody right out of school to be a designer, they have to spend time teaching them how to plumb and interpret the plumbing code and ask the right questions when they run into an obstacle or even realize that they ran into an obstacle to begin with. With me, they didn't have to do that. I already knew, even though I knew Wisconsin code, I didn't really do a ton of design for buildings in the state of Wisconsin. It was mostly other places, but I still knew enough about plumbing code and enough about how plumbing went together in the field that they could just, give me a few suggestions, like a red line on a print or something like that, and I could run with that because they didn't have to teach me how to draw in pitch sanitary piping, or they didn't have to teach me how to do storm calculations, that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's probably, a lot of nuances of our code that you just inherently had, right? And you were easily transition that into design. That saves a lot of time. Absolutely. What were some of the big challenges that you faced in making that shift from installer to design? I know you said it was kind of forced upon you, but there had to be some challenges in there too, right?
Yeah, and this is a little kind of funny. So you remember from working in the field, you were moving as fast as you can go, trying to shave time and materials off the job, trying to make the most money for the contractor. What I found at a large engineering firm, the pace was a lot more relaxed. And stuff that I had to adjust to, they would have euchre tournaments or cornhole tournaments or even baby showers during the workday. And we get a ton of paid time off. And I still don't understand how they made money, but it was just a different mentality, a different pace, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the one story that you had about you were set up a sign at your desk and it was like, I'll be back in such and such time. And your
Right.
cubicle mate close to you is like, nobody cares, man. Just come back when you come back. But it took
Right.
some,
Yeah, it was.
but that's a unique challenge because we don't, how it is now, we don't, if we don't work, we don't get paid, right? There's no paid time
Right.
off. There's,
And as a foreman, you're accounting. Like if you've got a crew, you're accounting for what everybody in your crew is doing all the time. And if you like, hey, where'd he go? Or that kind of thing. You're always accounting for what everybody's doing, and there it wasn't that. It's like, well, where'd he go? Oh, he's doing some training, or he went home because it's Friday or whatever. Like it was just a different type of. It was quite a transition, I would say.
yeah, it's unique challenge. It's still a challenge, right? But
Yeah.
so eventually, and I know you kind of had been teaching this whole time since you transitioned, but eventually you moved into full-time teaching.
Right.
And maybe that's a further back question because I remember teaching when we were at Madison College, right? Doing night school. I'd go in and
Yeah.
we'd have some overlap with classes, or I'd be like, hey, Pete, and I'm talking to you. But that transition, or maybe what even got you into teaching, what inspired you to take that step?
Well, I was asked to start by the program director for plumbing. I was asked to teach night school pretty much as soon as I got my journey license. At the time, work was slow, so the extra income was a plus. And I was kind of disappointed with my experience in the classroom as an apprentice, mostly by the lack of passion that the night school instructors had. So, and I didn't start out when I started out doing, I didn't, I really had to refine my skill, like, taking a few semesters of teaching to kind of refine my teaching style. But I kind of strove to make what I was teaching, what I was talking about, the time we were spending in class with the apprentices, I was trying to make it worth their while, make it interesting for them. Things didn't, like I said, things didn't start out idealistic as I would have liked, but I stuck with it. And it turned into me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you found your voice, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
You're a genuine instructor. Everybody can kind of tell if people are out of their element, and you found your groove now for sure. But yeah, that's cool. It's interesting. I've talked to a few instructors, right, and myself included in this. The reason you got into it was you were kind of approached by somebody, and then you're like, okay, what drives you? You just wanted to make it better than what you thought it was, right? And that's what it's all about. The apprenticeship is based on, or the advancements in humankind are like that, right? We got to try to make things better. So that's a great way to do it. I mean, students are lucky to have you, man.
Oh, well, thank you.
So with that, how do you bring your field and design experience into the classroom for those students? I know you want to make stuff better, more engaging, and then industry relevant, right? So you've got a unique path. So now you had installation, you had some great mentors, you got the design stuff underneath your belt. Can you think of any specifics that is kind of baked into your classroom curricula now from design and installation?
I still feel that I don't have a ton of experience. I mean, I've been in this trade for over 20 years, but I still have more experience in the apprentices, and they see me as an experienced person. I was lucky to be on some large and interesting projects where we had to execute certain techniques or applications that you don't see every day, both in working in the field and as a designer. Like, I really got the opportunity to do some interesting things. And that's something like, especially for some of the apprentices, the contractors that they work for, the limited kind of stuff that you do, or apprentices that are in service. I mean, that's a broad field, but it's still kind of limited to what you see and do on a day-to-day basis. I kind of try to bring that experience that I had with the interesting stuff into the classroom to kind of show apprentices like a different perspective about looking at things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. You have them plumb vicariously through you. Be like, just pretend you're me for a minute. No,
Sure. Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, just services day to day different, but it's a little pigeonholed, right? I mean, you've worked on auditoriums that have huge bathroom setups. A service plumber wouldn't necessarily do that, but
Right.
yeah, absolutely. Very
and
cool.
Design wise, I've worked on 24-story buildings that are never going to go up in this part of the state, that, people have no idea how they would go about something like that. So I have that experience too.
Yeah, I remember the picture that was shared in a group message about, it was you standing in front of the building because we were out in Michigan. And it was called your big boy design project, I think it was referred to.
Yeah. Right.
That was immediately accompanied by the picture of you partaking in some shellfish, right?
Yes.
It was a good group chat. Sometimes there's ones that are better than others, right? But
sure.
Yeah, very cool. So what has been the most rewarding part of teaching apprentices and future plumbers?
I'm going to go a little abstract here, maybe, but knowing the burden of responsibility that comes along with being charged with training the future installers and leaders. Because that's what I did in the military. I had a leadership role there, and that responsibility, I kind of got off on that, and I still do.
I don't know what to say to that.
Right.
It's humbling, right? You think of the weight that you have and the expectation of the future plumber or current plumber, that you have, and you said it early on in this podcast just about how we're the old guys now, right? I mean, it didn't hit me that mentor you talked about, he was the same age as what we are now, because you're a couple years older than me, but we're pretty close. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm the old dude now too. Oh well, but That's awesome, Pete. Last question for you: if you could give one piece of advice to apprentices listening today, especially for those who may want to get into design work, right, or get into teaching, what would your one piece, or it could be more, what would that piece of advice be?
Let's see. I guess I can't see into the future, but I would suggest embracing technology. Even like, I don't feel like I've been doing this for very long, but even like the technology we have with like BIM, clash detection, with even measuring out in the field and setting up our sleeves, that kind of stuff, setting pipe elevations, just embrace that technology, stay up on the trends and new materials and techniques. Also, one thing I should probably say, be aware of movements that are trying to devalue the license, and don't be afraid to raise your voice. Become an active member in ASSE or PHCC, because those organizations really actively document, demonstrate, and promote the importance of licensed, skilled craft workers that protect the health and safety of the nation.
Absolutely. Good point, Pete. That's there's a lot of organizations that are vital to the insurance of safe, clean drinking water and sanitation and technology. Hands down, you got to embrace that. I don't think our jobs are going to be replaced by AI anytime soon, but people that embrace AI might give plumbers a run for their money, right?
Right.
Is there any technology that you use every day that probably?
I guess in the classroom, what we do is we do some designing, because that it's a way for some apprentices that don't get to assemble and install some of the systems that we do, doing it on a computer in the design program. It gives them the opportunity to kind of hands-on putting it together. And also you're learning. I mean, the reason why we're doing it is not to teach them design programs, but we are teaching them design programs, and that kind of adds another arrow to their quiver, the stuff that, oh yeah, I know how to do this, or something like that, that could help make you more employable in the future, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, maybe that would make that you had to do that transition into design work, and you talk about kind of making that simpler because you had that installation background as far as for that firm, right. But maybe that embracing of the technology for the apprentice earlier on would make that transition into something they'd have to do, or gives them more doors to open and just quicker on the run with it. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. You got anything else you'd like to share? Those are my questions that I had for you, Pete. I think I could ask you questions all day, though. I really think you're an interesting person, and we've just talked a little bit about your profession, right? It's definitely not all that makes you as an individual, anybody that's spent any time with you. But I appreciate you sharing that. But you got anything else that I kind of missed that you'd like to discuss?
I can't think of anything.
All right. Well,
I'm
if
always
you do,
being
just call
told
me in
that,
the middle of the night.
Sure. I won't do that, because that means I'll be up in the middle of the night.
That's true.
I usually don't do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Pete, thanks for sharing your journey with us today. It's powerful to hear how each step, from installer to designer to teacher, has really shaped not just your career, but the way you're helping prepare the next generation of plumbers. And it's humbling to hear your appreciation of the task that you have chosen to do, right? That the burden that you possess or have on your shoulders to teach that next generation is pretty huge. And I thank you, and the industry thanks you as well for taking that on.
Oh, well, you're welcome.
Next week, we're diving into a topic that's not only technical, but deeply human: ADA compliance. Plumbing code tells us technical information needed to make fixtures work, but ADA is about ensuring that all users, no matter their unique abilities, can use those fixtures with dignity. As plumbers, we're not just installing pipe, we're helping give people access and independence. It's one of the most meaningful parts of our job, and I can't wait to explore that with you all next week. Thanks again for listening to Mastering Wisconsin Plumbing. I'm Ryan Boggs, and until next time, stay safe, stay sharp, and be smart out there. We'll see you on the next episode.